This is Rummy's Corner. To me, it feels like an eternity since Canelo was awarded a majority decision victory in his rematch against Gennady Golovkin. Truth be told, even the Fury Wilder rematch seems like it happened a long time ago, and that was only a few months back in February. With the entire boxing world essentially on hold these past few months, the entire boxing landscape has changed. And because of that, business practices going forward are going to need to become more flexible than they have traditionally been in recent years. The normal road of carving a career path where a boxer can maximize earnings while minimizing risks, that curve has shifted, and it remains to be seen how boxing transitions through unprecedented roadblocks in a sport that is already crippled by the inherent nature in the business. In other words, all too often the politics of boxing prevents the best from consistently facing the best. Now, in addition to the politics, there are other pressing considerations, such as the fact that mega-bout showdowns in boxing are usually very reliant on the proceeds of a live gate. The impact of this will likely have a greater impact on aging boxers whose careers are winding down, where that limited window of opportunity is now even more limited than it would otherwise be during normal business operations. The perfect example of this is the situation involving the Canelo-Golovkin rivalry. Their first fight happened on September 16, 2017. At that time, Golovkin was the undefeated, unified WBC, WBA, IBF middleweight world champion, and Canelo was a former middleweight champion and two-time junior middleweight champion. During that first fight, Canelo was looking to counter and to get off first when he could. Canelo was using a lot of movement, and he was frequently finding himself up against the ropes, and this is where Gennady does his best work. Canelo did his best to avoid being pinned in any one position for too long, but this took a lot of energy. So Canelo was constantly fighting off the back foot and using a lot of movement, and this was using up a lot of energy. This also provided Golovkin with the type of forward-moving momentum he generally thrives on. That was basically the story of the first fight. At the conclusion of 12 rounds, it was ruled a draw. But it was a controversial draw that most observers believed Golovkin deserved to win. The following May, Golovkin stopped Martirosyan in the second round, and that victory ultimately led to the rematch with Canelo. It was September 15th, 2018, almost exactly 1 year following their first encounter. This time, Golovkin's unified WBC, WBA belts were both on the line, but he had been stripped by the IBF. Canelo was once again looking to counter and to get off first whenever he could. But this time around, Canelo was determined to keep the fight at mid-range. By keeping things at mid-range, Canelo still held a tactical advantage, but by holding his ground, he conserved more energy while still maintaining the necessary execution of solid countering and getting off first whenever he could. Canelo still had some lulls in activity, but by keeping in range, he was able to wisely pick and choose his spots while preventing Golovkin from establishing his trademark forward aggression. It was a super competitive matchup, and at the end of the day, Canelo was awarded a razor-thin majority decision. With the victory, Canelo had become the new unified WBC, WBA middleweight world champion. That was almost 2 years ago now. Since that time, HBO left the boxing game, and Canelo signed a massive deal with the relatively new streaming app service known as DAZN. That was the month after the Golovkin rematch. The following March, Golovkin also signed a deal with DAZN. Since Canelo and Golovkin are both signed with DAZN, there was always the possibility, if not the expectation, that a third fight might be forthcoming. Since their rematch, Golovkin has had 2 bouts. He stopped Steve Rolls in round 4 in June of last year. Then in October of last year, Golovkin emerged victorious in a challenging and competitive bout against Sergey Derevyanchenko. Canelo has fought 3 times. In December 2018, he stopped regular WBA super middleweight titleist Rocky Fielding by third-round stoppage. In May of last year, he emerged victorious in a competitive contest against Danny Jacobs. With that victory, Canelo added the IBF middleweight title to his existing collection of the WBC and WBA titles. And last November, Canelo scored an impressive 11th round knockout against WBO light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev. So right now, at least as of this moment, Canelo and Golovkin are both searching for opponents this fall, and the possibility of a third fight in 2021 still looms strong. Honestly, prior to the lockdown, I did not have much interest in a third fight between these two. Not that I wouldn't have welcomed it. I just believe, like many, that Canelo has momentum and youth on his side, and that Canelo would likely win if they met again. But with the unprecedented lockdown, I have to say, I think this is one of the biggest and most logical fights that can be made in all of boxing during this current predicament. Right now, Golovkin is 38 years old. He is no spring chicken. Canelo, meanwhile, is 29, and many believe he is just hitting his prime right now. So the clock is not on Gennady's side, and with the new landscape that the boxing business will be forced to operate under, I think this limits the options for someone like Golovkin. In other words, I have to believe at this point they're going to really want that payday, and Canelo is going to need a solid dance partner sooner than later, and at least with the history of their rivalry, this fight seems to make an awful lot of sense. Will it actually happen? I have no idea whatsoever. Not a damn clue. But I have to believe this is a fight that the Zone has always wanted to happen, now more than ever given the shifting landscape. I have no idea if logistically and financially, I'm not sure how they make something like this work in the event that the live gate is either greatly hindered or out the window altogether. But I have to believe the mentality of the boxing power brokers is to make as much as you can under the circumstances. In other words, it's better to make a little money than no money at all. Compromises would no doubt be in order because the current landscape demands it. I have no idea if a third fight between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin will come together next year, but I really hope it does. With the controversial nature of the draw in their first bout, and Canelo winning a razor-thin decision in the rematch, it still feels like unfinished business here. And the window of opportunity to try and settle matters is closing far quicker than may have otherwise been the case when the lockdown shifted the dynamics of boxing business. Do you think we will get a third fight between Canelo and Golovkin? And if so, who do you think would win? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.